So Destiny 2 has a lot to offer, some new, some old, but today I'm going to be talking about what class is right for you for Destiny 2. Hey guys, what's up? I'm Umbruhh, and today I'm going to do the things I just explained. So what I want to talk about is what class feels right for you. So this game, there's a lot has changed, although a lot also remained the same. It's like combining the old and bringing the new, so like the best of both worlds. So they've added 3 new subclasses to one for each class. So for Titan, they've added the Sentinel class, which is like Captain America. You get a shield and you can bash enemies and throw them at enemies. Arcstrider, which is like Blade Dancer for the Hunter, but instead of using a blade, it uses a staff, and Dawnblade for the Warlock, which is similar to the Sunbreaker class for Titan, which was introduced in the Taken King, but I guess that Dawnblade is kind of like that. It's basically a solar ranged super ability, and it provides lots of support abilities that you can use as well. So anyways, guys, I'm going to talk about what is the best class to play as. Now, this is not meant to dissuade you to pursuing what class you want to play. The truth is, this isn't trying to say what class is better than which, or like which one is more viable. This is like to help you decide what class you want to play, whether or not you're coming back from a break from Destiny, or this is your first installment in the Destiny series. So, first off, like, personally, I play a Titan. I used to play Hunter, but then I went for Titan. So, first off, I'm gonna start with the Hunter. Now, the Hunter has 3 subclasses in Destiny. Gunslinger, which is returning from the first Destiny. Arcstrider, which is the new subclass they introduced. And the 3rd subclass is Nightstalker from the Taken King. So the first subclass I'm going to be talking about is Gunslinger from Destiny 1. So Gunslinger is pretty similar from Destiny 1. Like, they've made a few upgrades to it as well, like bonuses that you didn't have in Destiny 1 before. But again, they've added some new things, like, for example, that goes across all of Hunter's class abilities is the class ability, Dodge. That allows you to dodge incoming enemy fire by double tapping the B or the the circle button. I don't play it on PS4, so I wouldn't know. And it has a few new upgrades as well, for which I forgot to mention the Golden Gun, which is the subclass's super that allows you to summon a flaming pistol that can instantly kill an enemy. You only have 3 shots though, so make those count. Unless you get Way of the Outlaw, you work on that passive tree, and you have the ability called 6-shooter, where the Golden Gun can be fired up to 6 times, but it has a shorter duration. You can also go on Way of the Sharpshooter, and you can line up, if you line up some precision shots with your Golden Gun, you can either generate orbs of light for allies, or enter a trance where it reduces your Golden Gun after each precision kill, and you can choose the line 'em up ability, which precision hits with your Golden Gun increases its damage and its duration. So, Gunslinger is kind of like the ranged subclass for Destiny 2's Hunter. So that's what I would say for that. Next up, we have the Arcstrider, which replaces Blade Dancer from the first Destiny. So this subclass retains a few of its abilities from its predecessor, but it has a few new things. The Arc Staff, which is its new subclass super, where you form a staff that uses arc energy to take out your foes. Now this is a melee class, so you gotta be up close and personal with your enemies. And it also has the same grenades that it did with Blade Dancer back in Destiny 1. The same class ability that I've mentioned with Gunslinger. And There's also 2 passive trees you can choose, Way of the Warrior and Way of the Wind. Now, Way of the Wind is like usually just like increasing your abilities and enhancing your damage while using the arc staff. But Way of the Warrior primarily focuses on melee and dodging. Like, combat flow allows you to, for each of your melee kills, it recharges your dodge skill. Deadly Reach, which dodging temporarily increases melee range, but not always. Lethal Current, Arc Staff, allows you to hit twice after dodging your enemies. And Shocking Blow, attacking an enemy with this melee attack emits deadly bolts of lightning from your fist. And so, yeah, it's mostly melee, so if you're into melee for Hunter and you enjoyed Blade Dancer from the first Destiny, this class is your go-to. And this is the class you start off with as a Hunter in Destiny 2. I mean, you start off with Gunslinger, like in the prologue, but this is what you'll be doing for the first part of leveling up your character. And next off, and finally for the Hunter, I want to be talking about the 3rd hidden subclass, Nightstalker, returning from the Taken King. So Nightstalker is pretty similar to as it was in Destiny 1 Taken King. Most of the same grenade abilities. That you have an ability where you can throw a smoke bomb that distorts the enemy's vision of you or any of your allies. You can use snare bombs as well. It's basically about stealth and trapping your allies, similar to the first game. Your super is called Shadow Shot, which allows you to... It's kind of like Golden Gun, in a sense where it's ranged, but the thing about this works is it's more about trapping your enemies rather than killing them off with a ranged weapon that instant kills. So this instant kills the first enemy, but if I'm remembering this correctly from Destiny 1, all the other remaining enemies that were in the vicinity of the enemy that you shot with the Shadow Shot, what they will do is they will get tethered by Shadow Shot, and if any of them dies, they all die, or they at least get a lot of damage dealt to them. Now, they also have 2 other passive trees called Way of the Trapper and Way of the Pathfinder. No, not from Mass Effect Andromeda. Oh, fuck that game. But in Way of the Trapper, you get Snare Bomb, which allows you to throw a smoke bomb trap, and again, as I said, it slows and disorients them and detonates when enemies are near. No, wait, that was another one. They also got other things that increase your Shadow Shot, make you sneak and sprint faster, gain an enhanced tracker, and tether enemies are easier for tracking. They can also, Shadow Shot can also track your enemies too. And Way of the Pathfinder primarily focuses on your smoke bomb effects and tethered enemies and using Shadow Shot, where they have an ability called Mobius Quiver, where you can now fire Shadow Shot multiple times in a rapid succession, where Shadow Shot deals massive damage against enemies who are tethered. And Heart of the Pack, where killing tethered enemies also creates orbs of light that can be used for your allies and increases mobility, recovery, and resilience for you and also allies that are nearby. So that's for all I have to say for the subclasses for Hunter. Next off, we're going to be talking about the Warlock. Now for Warlock, it's essentially the space mage of this game. It's kind of like the closest thing we have for a mage. It uses, like, I guess you could say magic-like abilities. So the first subclass I'm going to be talking about is the one returning from Destiny 1, the Voidwalker, which is a void-based subclass. Now, its super called Nova Bomb is where you throw a huge explosive bolt of void energy towards an enemy that is like an instant kill. It's basically good for crowd control. So, like, if you're playing on a control map and, like, everybody is on the objective, you can use that to kill them all. Now, their grenades are pretty much the same from Destiny 1, and their class ability is called Rift. It's kind of like the support role where you heal and buff your allies, kind of like a healer in an MMORPG. So your first option is Healing Rift, is where you press and hold circle or B to conjure well of light that heals those who step inside it. An Empowering Rift is where you do the same thing, but it increases weapon damage for those who are inside the rift. And next we have the Attunement of Chaos passive tree. And for that tree, you get a really interesting ability called Chaos Accelerant, where you hold either the left bumper or the left, or what's it called, L1 for the PS4. Again, don't play PS4, so I wouldn't know. It's where you draw power from your super to make your grenades more powerful. And Warlocks, they have really good grenades. And Bloom also allows the void abilities for... Bloom allows for void ability kills to cause enemies to explode. Sorry for stuttering. Oh my god. And Cataclysm allows Nova Bomb to travel more slowly, but it seeks its enemies, so destinations shatter into smaller pieces, and you can fire your weapon at the Nova Bomb to make it go off early. And Entropic Pull is where you strike an enemy with this melee ability to drain your enemy's life. And you can also use it to recharge your grenade. And the next passive tree they have is called Attunement of Hunger. The first ability you have is Devour, where you kill an enemy with the melee ability to regen your health. And for a short time afterwards of that, you can use these kills while under this effect to restore additional health. And using Feed the Void, which is also another one, you hold down either L1 or left bumper to consume your grenade energy, which also regenerates your health and grants the Devour effect that I mentioned earlier. And then there's Insatiable. When the Devour effect is active, every time you kill an enemy, it extends the duration and recharges your grenade. And then there's Vortex, where Nova Bomb creates a singularity, which also damages enemies trapped inside. So it's more of a dot damage base than just like instant kill AoEs. And the next subclass I'm going to be talking about is the new one called the Dawnblade, which replaces Destiny 1's Sunsinger for the Warlock. So, the super for Warlock in this game is called Daybreak. It's, as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of similar to Titan's Sunbreaker from Destiny 1, where you get a range-based solar weapon and then you just, like, kind of like with the Sunbreaker, you threw, like, flaming hammers at your enemies, which would instantly kill them. With your solar blade, you would just, like, slash and weave flames at your opponents until they die. And now the grenades for Warlock are pretty similar to the ones from Sunsinger. They're almost identical, and you have the same Healing Rift and Empowering Rift abilities from before, and the same jump, which is Glide. And now we are gonna get into the passive skill trees, which is Attunement of Flame and Attunement of Sky. Now, first off, we're going to start off with Attunement of Flame. So their first ability for Attunement of Flame is Igniting Touch, where if you attack an enemy with the melee ability, it allows for them to burn and causes them to explode when they are killed. And the next one is called Fated for the Flame. Daybreak projectiles seek targets as they travel upon impact, launch a deadly strike of flames. The next ability is called Everlasting Fire, where killing an enemy with Daybreak extends its duration. And next off, there's Phoenix Dive, where holding B or circle while jumping allows you to quickly descend and restore your health, while Daybreak is active, that is. Descending causes explosive damage, apparently. And the next attunement we're going to be talking about, or passive skill tree, is Attunement of Sky. First ability we have is called Heat Rises. While you're airborne, kills recharge your grenades and melee energy, casting Daybreak, which instantly refills all of your ability energy. And next off is Winged Sun, engaging your enemies mid-flight, fire weapons, and throw grenades while gliding. So you can basically, while you're gliding, you can attack your enemies while in flight. And Swift Strike. Attacking an enemy with this melee ability allows you to burn your target and temporarily increase your movement and reload speed. And Icarus Dash is an ability where you can press circle or B rapidly, like twice, while in midair to dodge. So it's kind of similar in a way to Hunter's dodge ability, but not quite. And next off, we're going to be talking about the Stormcaller, which is the subclass returning from the Taken King. And the first thing I'm going to be talking about again is the super, which is called Storm Trance. It's pretty similar. It's pretty much the same from the first one. You basically turn into Emperor Palpatine and shoot lightning into people. This is kind of more short range. It's still range, but you have a shorter ranged effect on it. So you want to be a little bit more close with your enemies when you're using Storm Trance. And so it's like the first from the first game. And the grenades are the same, Arc Ball, Pulse Grenade, and Storm Grenade. And the rifts are the same with the glides. Now the skill trees are attunement of the eons and attunements of the elements. So first off, we're going to be talking about attunement of the eons, or I don't know. So the first ability is Chain Lightning, where if you deliver an electrocuting arc melee strike at an extended range, that chains from the struck target to another enemy nearby. So it's kind of like the Hunter's tether ability, where it just tethers to another enemy. Next off is Transcendence. When cast with full grenade or melee energy, Storm Trance lasts longer and restores your health fully. Next off is Arc Web. Enemies damaged by your grenade chains deadly lightning to the nearby enemies. And next off is Ionic Blink, where if you press the sprint button to teleport during Storm Trance. Sorry for the stuttering. And next off is Attunement of Elements, which is the second passive skill tree. The first ability is Gale Force, where this electrocuting melee ability hits at extended range and recharges your super, grenade, and melee energy. And next is Landfall. On casting Storm Trance, fire a bolt of lightning into the ground, creating a devastating shockwave under you. Rising Storm. Your rift charge faster when allies are nearby. And Arc Soul. Your rift now grants you or any ally who uses it an Arc Soul to aid you in battle. So that's all the subclasses for Warlock, so I would recommend this class if you wanted more of a class that's akin to like the mage and then MMORPG. Like if you play RPGs or MMORPGs and like the mage classes, this may be the class for you. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to be talking about the Titan. So first of all, I'm going to be discussing about the Striker subclass, which is returning from Destiny 1. Now, the Striker is pretty similar, although I've noticed the Fist of Havoc ability, which is its super, has changed a lot. So now, it's basically turned into like a melee ability, so it's kind of like I wouldn't say a melee ability, although I just did. It's more of like a melee super. You use R1 and L1 or left bumper and right bumper to use this ability. It charges up your fist, and once activated, you ground slam, and then you can shoulder charge and ground slam until your super meter is depleted. So you can basically use this super now for as long as its duration. And the grenades are the same from the first one. And first of all, we're going to be talking about the class ability. Now, you get two class abilities. Towering Barricade, where a large barricade you can use for cover for a short period of time to seal off dangerous areas and protect your allies. So it's kind of like a tank from an RPG or an MMORPG, where you would protect your allies from certain death, kind of like Warlock is for healing, and Hunter is, well, just for moving around and avoiding dying, like most DPS try to do. But anyways, the next one is Rally Barricade, where a small barricade deploys that allows you to peek over it while aiming down the sights, and it instantly reloads all of your equipment when you take cover, so there's no need to reload. It's pretty versatile, although it doesn't give you as much cover. So, next off, we're going to be talking about the passive skill trees. Alright, For the first one, I don't know the name. The aftermath of it, Fist of Havoc, no wait, the ability is called Aftermath. Fist of Havoc disorients enemies and leaves a damage-dealing field in its wake. And another ability, Magnitude, increases the duration of pulse grenades, lightning grenades, and Aftermath. Aerial Strike, where Fist of Havoc deals more damage the longer it's in the air. And Shoulder Charge, which is an ability that you can now use outside your super. It was a pretty common ability that most Striker Titans would use in the first game, where after sprinting for a short period of time, activate your melee button and you can shoulder slam first into your target and it would instantly kill them. And the second passive tree abilities include Frontal Assault, where a powerful melee punch that you do towards an enemy grants you increased weapon stability, and then Reversal, where melee kills immediately grant you health regeneration. And then there's Knockout, where breaking enemy shields increase your melee range, and Trample, where Fist of Havoc lasts longer when you're sprinting and killing enemies with your super extends its duration. So that's it for Striker. Next off, we're going to be talking about the new subclass, which replaces Defender. So this is a Void class, like Striker was an Arc and Sunbreaker is a Solar. So your super is called Sentinel Shield. It's like a hybrid between melee and defending. What you can do is you can press L1 or left bumper to throw your shield and use your melee button to attack, while you could use L2 or the left trigger to guard. Now, the grenades are similar to the Defender grenades from Destiny 1, and the barriers are the same. And next off, we're going to be talking about the skill trees. So you have Code of the Protector and Code of the Aggressor. Now, Code of the Protector, I would assume from the name, is more about defending your allies rather than attacking your allies. So this is just prediction. I haven't gotten that far with the Sentinel class yet, so here's what I'm going to explain. Defensive Strike, where killing an enemy with this melee ability allows you to create an overshield around you and nearby allies, which gives you additional shields. And next off, there's Rallying Force, where melee kills restore health for you and your nearby allies. And next off is Turn the Tide, which your overshield or your additional shields from defensive strike last longer and increase melee damage and reload speed. And next off, which is actually the super from the original Destiny Defender class, called Ward of Dawn. When your super energy is full, what you want to do is press and hold down R1 or an R2 or left bumper and right bumper. Hold those down, don't press them, hold it down to create a shielding dome to protect you and your allies. So it's basically the super from the first game, just made like an extra ability in the Sentinel class. And then there's Code of the Aggressor, which I assume is more offensive than Code of the Protector, where it's defensive. Now, the first ability you get is called In the Trenches, where killing people while surrounded by enemies reduces the cooldown of your super, allowing you to activate it much quicker. Next off, there's Second Shield, where you gain an additional shield throw charge while Sentinel Shield is active. Next off, there's Shield Bash, where after sprinting for a short time, you can use this melee ability to unleash a devastating Shield Bash that disorients your enemies. So it's kind of like Shoulder Charge for the Striker, but not quite. And next off, and finally, for Code of the Aggressor, you get Superior Arsenal, which grenade kills increase your grenade energy, or recharge it. So that's it for Sentinel. It's kind of a mix between like offense and defense. It has really good defensive abilities that are especially useful for you and your allies in raids. And it's kind of like not quite as much as Striker, which is more offense oriented, melee offense oriented. And finally, we're going to be talking about the subclass returning from the Taken King, the Sunbreaker, which is a solar-based class. So the super for the Sunbreaker class is Hammer of Soul, which is returning from Destiny 1. What it allows you to do is it allows you to summon the Hammer of Soul, which is a hammer blessed by solar light, and you can throw it around, throw it at enemies, which instantly kills them. And you can do this for as long as the duration lasts. So basically you turn into Thor. And the grenades remain the same, and so does the barricades and the jump abilities. But next, I'm going to be talking about the passive skill trees. Now, there's Code of the Fireforged and Code of the Siegebreaker. So I'm going to be talking about Code of the Fireforged first. So the first ability you have is called Hammer Strike. While sprinting, use this melee ability to unleash a blazing hammer strike that weakens your enemies. And then there's Tempered Metal. Using a solar ability grants you and nearby allies bonus to movement and reload speed. Next is Battle Forge, where enemies who are killed by your Hammer of Soul, they blow up. And then there's Vulcan's Rage, where hammer shatters into explosive molten, which embers on impact. Next up, we have the Code of the Siegebreaker, which is the second passive skill tree. The first ability is called Mortar Blast. If you strike an enemy with this melee ability, it releases a solar explosion, setting nearby enemies on fire. So it's kind of similar to the other classes' melee abilities that like tether or like cause damage to others around them. Next off is Sun Warrior, where solar abilities that kill your enemies, restore your health, grenade, and melee abilities kills leave a deadly sunspot in their wake. Next off is Ring of Fire. While standing in a sunspot, your solar abilities recharge faster and your super lasts longer. Next is Solar Siege. Hammer creates a sunspot on impact. While standing on these sunspots, you throw hammers faster. So that's it for the Sunbreaker. And now it's time I come to a verdict. First off, I just want to say Sunbreaker is kind of like Striker, but it's more, instead of Striker being more melee oriented, Sunbreaker is more ranged oriented. And so I've come to the verdict. All classes and all of their subclasses are as viable. They're pretty useful, although some are more useful in other subjects than others. So for Hunter, if you want to play a melee-based class, Arcstrider is your best bet, and Gunslinger for your ranged damage, and Shadow Shot if you kind of want to be like the rogue where you trick and trap enemies and use interesting and intricate weapons to kill them. And for Warlock, it's your mage-based character and your support character. You can use your abilities to heal, and for Warlock, it's great for crowd control with its Nova Bomb ability. Dawnblade is great for support and like setting enemies on fire with your melee blade. Kind of similar to Sunbreaker, but not as offensive. I didn't want to say offensive. And then there's Stormcaller, which is more close ranged. As a, like, you can turn into Emperor Palpatine for a second and just shock the living hell out of people. And next, there's Titan. Titan is your very aggressive-based, like, aggressive in your face. So if you want to go for, like, a defender or, like, a tank or, like, a bruiser, this class is good for you. Striker is your good bet for a berserker-based class where you're always in the enemy's face and kicking their ass. And Sentinel's a healthy mix between defense and offense where you can use your shield to defend you and your allies, while also using it to throw it at enemies and attack enemies with it. So it's like a combination of all three. And then there's Sunbreaker, which is like a soul-based range, like you can throw your hammers at enemies, so it's more ranged than the others, although you still get interesting melee abilities too. So in the end, pick whatever class you want, but know that these are what you're going to get if you choose these classes. Anyways, guys, I hope you all found this video helpful. If you have any tips or suggestions on which class you should start off with Destiny, take a comment down below, and I'll talk to you guys later. This is probably the longest video I've ever recorded. Anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful day. You guys are awesome. Love you all. Umbruhh, out.